People will treat you as you permit them to. This is not a matter of blame, but of nature. A Stoic does not waste time demanding that others change. Instead, they take full responsibility for their response. If you find yourself repeatedly disrespected, consider this: have you allowed it? Not through your words, but through your silence, your endurance, your excuses. The Stoics taught that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can always control our own. When you remain silent in the face of disrespect, you are not practicing peace. You are cultivating permission. When you brush off insults or tolerate toxic behavior in the name of keeping harmony, you are not being virtuous. You are abandoning your standards. People are not diviners of your soul. They respond to what you show them. And if what you show is indifference to your own dignity, they will believe that you are comfortable with being diminished. You are not. But belief is shaped not by intentions, but by actions. You may say you desire respect, but if you continue to return to situations where you are not honored, your words become weightless. Respect is not demanded. It is inspired by self-respect. Disrespect is not born in a single moment. It takes root over time. A comment made at your expense, a gesture of disregard, a pattern of avoidance, and each time you let it pass, you reinforce it. Stoicism is not about confrontation. It is about clarity. It is about knowing what is in your control and exercising it with calm, unwavering strength. You do not need to argue. You do not need to explain. You need only to act. When someone speaks to you with contempt, you do not match their tone. You simply do not stay in that space. When manipulation appears, you do not react with anger, you respond with distance. When disrespect repeats itself, you do not tolerate, you withdraw your consent. You teach others how to treat you not by force, but by example. You become immune to chaos when you cease to feed it. Raise your standards, not as a weapon against others, but as a vow to yourself. Draw the line, not to punish, but to protect your peace, and do so quietly, consistently, and without apology. For the Stoic, power lies not in domination, but in discipline, not in controlling others, but in mastering your own choices. Let your boundaries be silent oaths. Let your actions carry the message, and those around you will come to understand. You are not available for anything less than respect. When you first begin to live with principle, others may resist. They may question your change, feel unsettled, or even push back. This is to be expected. The Stoics remind us, it is not within your power to govern the emotions of others, but it is within your power to govern your own conduct. When you stop playing the role they assigned you, discomfort arises. But that discomfort is theirs to hold, not yours to relieve. Your duty is not to be pleasing to all. It is to be true to your values and unwavering in your peace. If a relationship cannot survive your integrity, then it was not worthy of you to begin with. Many fear that standing firm will drive people away, but ask yourself, how long will you continue to abandon yourself to avoid making others uncomfortable? How many more hours of your life will you spend appeasing those who disregard your dignity? A Stoic seeks not to be liked by all, but to live in harmony with their own conscience. Those who remain will be those who respect your clarity, your strength, your quiet discipline. Respect is not requested. It is earned through how you carry yourself, what you allow, and what you refuse to tolerate. Human nature will test boundaries. This is not a flaw, it is an observation of reality. But once you show others consistently and calmly that your standards are not to be negotiated, they either rise to meet them or fall away. Either outcome is acceptable. A boundary is not a wall, it is an expression of reason. It does not isolate you, it protects you. It is not about control of others. It is about discipline of self. A Stoic sets boundaries as one sets the frame of a painting, not to limit life, but to give it shape. You alone are responsible for enforcing the rules that govern how others enter your space. Imagine your mind and time as a dwelling. Would you leave your door unlocked and open to all, hoping passers-by treat it with reverence? No, you choose who enters, you set the terms. And yet, in daily life, many leave their emotional doors open, hoping others will intuit their limits. But the world does not function on assumptions. Boundaries must be defined, not hoped for, and they must be upheld, not occasionally, but always. That is where strength lives, in repetition, not reaction. Many confuse boundary setting with hostility. They see saying no as unkind, walking away as selfish, protecting energy as cold. But the truth is quite the opposite. It is an act of virtue. It is to say, this is what I believe, this is how I live, and this is the treatment I will accept. It is not about punishing others. It is about refusing to participate in anything that disrupts your inner order. And let this be understood clearly. Those who gain from your silence will be the first to resent your voice. They will say you've changed, and you have. You've become more rooted, more rational, more aligned with who you truly are. They will say you're too sensitive. But the Stoic is not sensitive to insult. They are sensitive to the erosion of virtue. Let others be unsettled by your growth. That is not your burden. Now consider what boundaries look like when governed by reason. They are not grand declarations. They are simple, deliberate choices. Choosing not to respond to messages after a certain hour, declining events that do not nourish you, walking away from interactions that sap your spirit, saying no when your soul says no. Each time you honor your boundary, you affirm your worth, not loudly, not emotionally, but with calm certainty. And this does not require cruelty. The Stoic does not lash out. They remain composed. You can say, this doesn't work for me, or I'm not available for this conversation. You need not justify yourself to anyone, for your life is yours to lead, not theirs to understand. The moment you begin living by your principles instead of your fears, you become unshakable. You teach others not through demand, but through discipline. And over time, the noise quiets, the chaos fades, and the world around you begins to reflect the stillness within. A boundary is a complete sentence. It needs no defense, no elaborate explanation, no emotional justification. A Stoic understands this. Virtue does not require validation. You speak your truth, not to persuade others, but to remain in harmony with your own reason. The difficulty of boundaries does not lie in setting them, but in withstanding the reaction they provoke. Others may push back, question you, even attempt to make you feel guilt, but their reaction belongs to them. It is not your burden. Your responsibility is not to maintain their comfort. It is to preserve your own peace. The Stoics remind us that inner tranquility is found not through pleasing others, but through living in accordance with principle. True respect cannot be built on fear, guilt, or obligation. It must stand on mutual understanding and shared values. And those who truly respect you, they will honor your clarity. Perhaps not perfectly, not immediately, but they will listen, reflect, and meet you with effort. Those who resist, let them fall away. You are not here to belong everywhere. You are here to be anchored in who you truly are. And when you begin to live by boundaries, something shifts. You no longer seek permission. You no longer wait to be treated well. You no longer exhaust yourself explaining your needs to those who refuse to hear them. Instead, you carry yourself with quiet conviction. You stop bending to avoid discomfort, and you begin standing, calm, unshaken, whole. The moment others see that you are no longer available for disrespect, they adjust or depart. And either way, you gain peace. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped negotiating your value. You stopped managing everyone's emotions. You stopped shrinking to fit into smaller spaces. You gave yourself the dignity you once sought from others. And the world, as it always does, began to mirror your example. Not because you demanded it, but because you became it. This is the Stoic way. Lead yourself, walk with discipline, embody what you expect. Confidence too is not given, it is built, not in the absence of fear, but in the presence of courage. You do not wait for confidence to arrive. You act, despite trembling hands, despite doubt, despite judgment, and afterward you discover that you endured, that you spoke, that you stood firm. This is how confidence grows. Through action, through exposure to the storm, and through the realization that the storm passed, and you remained. Confidence is not loud, it does not seek applause. It is quiet, steady, earned through daily choices, through honoring your word, through caring for your body and mind, through keeping your promises, even when no one is watching. In these acts, you show yourself that you are trustworthy, and that trust becomes the root of lasting confidence. You cannot feel good about yourself if you continue to abandon yourself, if you silence your thoughts, betray your values, and accept treatment that insults your dignity. Confidence cannot take root in the soil of self-betrayal. That is not confidence, that is survival. And survival over time depletes you. The transformation begins when you reclaim your worth. Not as something to be earned through others, but something already present within you. When you stop chasing approval, when you stop being afraid of disappointing others, when you realize that someone else's discomfort is not a sign that you've done wrong, but that you've done something different. Real growth requires discomfort, and real confidence is forged in moments where you choose truth over ease, action over hesitation, principle over popularity. It does not require that you have all the answers. It requires that you step forward anyway, that you trust your capacity to endure, to adapt, to learn. Even if you fall, you rise. Even if it's imperfect, you improve. This is how the Stoic trains the mind, not to avoid fear, but to move through it, not to crave comfort, but to pursue strength. And that strength does not emerge on the sidelines. It emerges in action, in the difficult conversation, the honest no, the unwavering stance. Confidence is the reward of discipline. It is the quiet proof that you did not yield. And the world respects those who lead themselves. Each moment you choose discipline over impulse, each time you act with intention rather than reaction, you place another stone in the foundation of your self-belief. And from this foundation, something powerful grows. Confidence, not loud, not boastful, but steady. And here is what few understand. Real confidence is contagious. It does not need to announce itself. It is not arrogance nor performance. It is presence. When you walk into a room as someone who knows their worth, not because others told you, but because you've proven it to yourself, people sense it. They feel it in your stillness, your restraint, your clarity. They respect it, not because you seek their approval, but because you've stopped requiring it. Confidence is not about being the best. It is about being honest, about standing in your truth without apology, without explanation. It is built not in grand moments, but in small ones, choice by choice, action by action, day by day. So stop waiting for some perfect readiness. The Stoics taught, do not waste time wondering whether you are prepared. Act, and through action, you become prepared. Confidence does not precede courage, it follows it. You step forward before you feel ready. You speak even when your voice is uncertain. You show up, not to be seen, but because you know you matter. This is not magic, it is practice. Confidence is a muscle, and like any muscle, it strengthens through use. And in the same way, disrespect often arrives quietly, through tone, through subtle dismissal, through delayed recognition. It may leave you questioning whether what just happened truly mattered, and it did. But the true power is not in how quickly you respond, it's in whether you pause. The pause is one of the greatest tools the Stoic possesses. In that space between stimulus and response, there is freedom. The freedom to govern your reaction, to remain sovereign over your own mind. When disrespected, your first instinct may be emotional, anger, shame, defensiveness. But emotion is a wave, and the wise do not jump into it. They observe it. They wait. They pause. This pause is not weakness. It is strength restrained. It is leadership. It is self-mastery. In the pause, you remind yourself, I do not serve my emotions. They serve me. When you stop reacting to every provocation, you reclaim your power. You stop letting others dictate your energy, your composure, your identity. Imagine you are interrupted in a meeting. The body flares, the breath shortens, and then you pause, you take control, and calmly you say, I wasn't finished. You've just taught the room something. Your voice is deliberate, not reactive. Your boundaries are firm, not aggressive. Your presence is not dependent on noise. It is defined by clarity. This discipline must be trained. In a world obsessed with immediacy, messages, alerts, demands, it is easy to believe that instant reaction is strength. But it is not. The Stoic knows that urgency is not the same as importance. Just because something demands your attention does not mean it deserves it. The more you practice the pause, the more intentional your life becomes. You stop living on emotional autopilot. You stop being manipulated by tone, by urgency, by noise. You begin choosing your responses with precision. In conflict, you pause. In criticism, you pause. In passive aggression, you pause. That space allows you to ask, what do I stand for? What version of myself do I choose in this moment? This is not inauthentic. It is effective. It is not performance. It is principle. Because most disrespect comes from the insecurity of others. When you pause, you do not absorb their chaos. You let it pass. And through that, you teach others something essential. You are not easily shaken. You are not here to compete for attention nor defend your worth. You do not raise your voice. You raise your standard. And your silence, your steadiness, becomes your signature. It tells the world, I know who I am. The pause does more than prevent regret. It reconnects you to your highest self, to your reason, to your wisdom, to your values. And sometimes the strongest response to disrespect is no response at all, not from avoidance, but from strength. You do not react because you are focused. You do not engage because your energy is too valuable to be spent on immaturity. So make the pause your practice. Not just a strategy, but a way of life. Breathe, reflect, then act. Not out of fear, but out of conviction. This is what it means to lead yourself. The world will continue to test your boundaries, your peace, your patience. That is beyond your control. But how you meet each test, calmly, consciously, consistently, is always your choice. And each time you choose to pause, you prove to yourself and to the world, your self-respect is not up for negotiation. This is not just power, it is growth. And that is how you begin to live as someone who commands respect without ever needing to raise your voice. The Stoics understood this long ago. You do not control how others treat you, but you do control how you teach them to, not just through your actions, but through your language. The way you speak, both aloud and within your own mind, reveals your philosophy, your self-respect, and your alignment with virtue. If your words are filled with hesitation, if you diminish your strengths, if you lace every sentence with doubt, others will mirror that uncertainty. Because what you tolerate in your inner dialogue becomes permission in the outer world. If you do not honor your own voice, why should they? You must stop making yourself small to make others comfortable. Stop beginning sentences with, I'm just sorry, but this might sound dumb. These phrases aren't humility, they're erosion. Each one quietly instructs others, don't take me seriously, and they won't. The Stoic speaks clearly. Not to impress, but to align action with reason. Language is not decoration, it is command. It sets the tone before the thought is even complete. If you speak with doubt, you'll be treated with doubt. But if you speak with calm conviction, even if your voice is unsteady, you demonstrate belief. And that belief is powerful. That belief is contagious. Look to those who carry presence. They are not always the loudest nor the most decorated. What they possess is clarity. They speak as though their words matter, because to them, they do. That is where your shift must begin. Your words must first matter to you. Start paying attention to the way you speak, not only to others, but to yourself. When someone offers a compliment, do you dismiss it? Do you say, "It was nothing," or "I got lucky"? That may sound humble, but it signals disconnection from your effort. Instead, say, "Thank you, I worked hard." That's not arrogance, that's alignment. Or when asked for your opinion, do you preface it with, "This might be wrong," but that framing teaches others to disregard you before you've even spoken. Instead say, "Here's what I see. Here's what I've noticed." Stand in your perception. Speak with clarity, not apology, but this goes deeper. The words you speak to yourself, the inner monologue, forge the very lens through which you see the world. If that voice tells you you're not enough, that you always fail, that others are better, your life begins to bend to that script. It becomes the soil in which all your choices take root. So change the script. Replace "I can't" with "I'm learning." Replace "I'm not good at this" with "I improve every time I try." Replace "They're ahead of me" with "Their path is different." And "I am still moving forward." These aren't empty affirmations. They are mental discipline. And discipline is the Stoic's highest tool. Also remember this: silence speaks. And when you remain silent in moments that demand your voice, when boundaries are crossed, when values are violated, when disrespect arrives, you are not preserving peace. You are endorsing harm. To stay silent when your truth is needed is to tell the world your voice has no weight. But it does. You don't need the perfect words. You only need honest ones. When you speak with intention and composure, you demonstrate self-leadership. You model respect, not as something you beg for, but as something you embody. This is how others learn to engage with you. They follow your lead. When you speak clearly, with purpose, and without apology, they see you as someone not to be overlooked, not to be spoken over, not to be taken lightly. They sense your presence, your principle, your power, not because you demanded attention, but because your very posture made it clear, "I know my worth." And when you begin to speak like someone who does, the world listens, not out of fear, out of respect. You must be the first to speak to yourself with the respect you wish to receive from the world. That is where everything begins. The Stoics taught no one can harm your dignity unless you first abandon it. So let your words, both internal and external, be a reflection of that dignity. When you speak with clarity, with restraint, and with purpose, disrespect loses its grip. Why? Because you've already defined the standard, and the world follows the example you set. Who you choose to surround yourself with is not a casual decision. It is a philosophical one. Your environment shapes your mind, your habits, your temperament, and ultimately your character. Even the strongest individual, if placed in a corrupt circle, begins to question their worth. Not because they are weak, but because repetition rewires perception. Be vigilant, be selective. As Epictetus said, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. There is no such thing as neutral influence. Every conversation, every silence, every glance plants something in you, either self-belief or self-doubt. There are those who encourage your reason, who value your voice, who align with your virtue, and there are those who, consciously or not, pull you away from yourself. The ones who minimize your words, cross your boundaries, laugh at your growth, these are not harmless. Their energy distorts your sense of self, quietly convincing you to expect less, to ask for less, to become less. That is not friendship, that is erosion. Audit your circle as though your character depends on it, because it does. If you leave a room feeling smaller, more confused, or less grounded, take note. That discomfort is information. It does not mean others are enemies. It may simply mean they are no longer aligned with the path you're walking. Growth creates distance, and that distance is not punishment. It is clarity. You do not need to burn bridges. Stoicism does not teach rage. It teaches reason, boundaries, not bitterness. But you must be intentional. Stop giving your time to those who drain it. Stop offering yourself to those who only take. And stop confusing loyalty with alignment. Just because someone has been part of your past does not mean they belong in your future. Something profound happens when you raise the standard of your environment. Your identity rises to meet it. When you are among the disciplined, the kind, the focused, and the principled, you do not need to force respect. It becomes the atmosphere. You mirror strength. You echo clarity. You become steady not because you shout louder, but because you no longer need to shout at all. Seek out those who challenge you with wisdom, not ego. The ones who hold you accountable but never tear you down. The ones who believe in your vision even when it's still unpolished. These individuals do more than support you. They reflect the higher version of you back to yourself. And you may not find them until you make space by releasing those who no longer walk in the same direction. Letting go is not cruelty. It is courage. What is more harmful is staying in relationships that slowly chip away at your spirit. You deserve to be in rooms where you do not have to shrink, around people who speak your name with integrity, even when you are not present. You deserve peace, and peace begins with protection. Once you make that decision, once you draw the line and stand behind it, the landscape shifts. Your standards rise, your confidence grows. Disrespect no longer finds shelter in your life, not because the world has changed, but because you have. And what no longer matches your discipline, your mindset, your peace, simply falls away. Choose your company as though your future depends on it. Because it does. Your potential is not a favor others bestow upon you. It is a duty you uphold. And you must guard it from those who do not see it, do not respect it, and do not support it. You are not too much. You have simply spent too long surrounded by those who expected too little. Align yourself with those who remind you of your strength, not those who cause you to forget it. That choice alone, made with calm conviction, will erase more disrespect than confrontation ever could. Because from that place of alignment, you no longer demand respect, you become it. Respect is not something you chase, it's something you emanate. It becomes the atmosphere around you, calm, firm, unmistakable, not because you demand it, but because you live in accordance with your own unwavering principles. The Stoics taught that our outer world reflects the standards we hold within. So set yours wisely. Standards are not rules imposed on others. They are the boundaries you hold yourself to. They determine how you speak, how you act, how you allow others to treat you, not because you're controlling, but because you're intentional. When you walk into a room with clear internal standards, the world adjusts. People sense something different. You don't need to prove yourself. Your presence does the speaking, but without standards, you drift. You say yes when you mean no. You stay silent to avoid tension. You tolerate disrespect because the conflict seems more uncomfortable than the compromise. And slowly, your self-worth begins to erode, not from one big event, but from 1,000 small moments where you abandoned yourself for comfort, for approval, for peace that never comes. That's the cost of low standards: resentment, confusion, disconnection from your own values. You start accepting less than you deserve and calling it normal. You forget what you once dreamed of. You forget that your time, your energy, your dignity, all of it is sacred. But the moment you decide to raise your standards, everything shifts quietly, firmly. You stop explaining yourself to people who've already decided not to understand. You stop giving energy to chaos. You stop mistaking being tolerated for being respected. And you begin, slowly but surely, to build a life that reflects self-respect. This isn't easy, especially if you were raised in a home where silence was safer than honesty, or you've worked in places where burnout was glorified, or you've loved people who only loved the version of you that stayed small. So when you start saying, "That doesn't work for me, it will feel uncomfortable," maybe even wrong, but it's not wrong, it's new and necessary, because you cannot grow in an environment that punishes your boundaries. You cannot rise while surrounded by voices that pull you down, and you cannot live in integrity while abandoning yourself to keep the peace. So how do you raise your standards? Not by waiting for the world to change, but by changing how you show up in it. It starts in your habits. Do you keep your word to yourself? Do you treat your body like something worth protecting? Do you honor your time, your sleep, your energy? These are not small things. They are the bricks of your foundation. Each time you honor your standards, even privately, you send a message. I am someone who can be trusted. And people feel that. You don't have to shout. You don't have to prove. You just have to be consistent. Integrity is louder than volume. The truth is, the moment you begin taking yourself seriously, others begin to do the same. They learn. Your time is valuable. Your boundaries are real. Your presence matters. And if someone crosses the line, you won't collapse. You will calmly, decisively hold the line. Not from anger, but from principle. And no, not everyone will like this version of you. Some will call you too much. Others will say you've changed. And you will agree, yes, I've changed. I've remembered who I am. Let them fall away, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Growth naturally creates distance. And what no longer aligns dissolves. Because the more you raise your standards, the less you'll tolerate what once drained you. Disrespect won't even get close. Not because it stopped existing, but because it stopped belonging in your world. The people who can rise to meet your clarity, they'll stay. The rest will fade, and that's okay. So pause. Ask yourself, what are my standards? In relationships, in how I spend my time, in how I speak to myself. And if the answer is unclear, that's your work. Write them, revisit them, live them. Your standards are not just preferences, they are your compass. And when they're strong, everything around you rises to meet them. Because the truth is simple. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you tolerate. And when you stop tolerating the bare minimum, when you live like someone whose respect is not negotiable, the world begins to reflect that back. Not because you demanded it, but because you became it.